climb flight level 150, on the first flight level 180, 45140.
It's early evening at Bristol International Airport, and Safety Officer Jim Calloway is at the start of his 12-hour night shift.
Tower Ranger at Alpha 2. When convenient, like to enter runway 27 for a surface inspection.
Ranger Tower to hold Alpha.
Roger, holding at Alpha. Regardless of clearance, still look left and look right. We like to get a runway inspection in on the dusk patrol to make use of the last bit of available light. Obviously it's a bonus, we can see the margins of the runway as well, checking for any bird activity or any birds that may have settled there, and also keeping an eye out for any foreign objects that may appear. The rules are sufficient time should be allowed to carry out the inspection at a speed driven suitable enough for the operator to see the full width of the runway and also to cover the full length of the runway.
A short way into the inspection, Jim spots a problem. He's noticed that one of the runway lights has failed.
Alpha 1, runway 27,
A moment.
271028.
The runway edge lights are in the process of being renumbered, so it's the fifth light westbound from that taxiway. Got an aircraft on finals out there. I was aware of him before I actually entered the runway. So if there's insufficient time to complete the inspection, what happens is air traffic will politely kick me off the runway, hold me until the aircraft's landed, and then clear me back on.
Good evening, Calamon 057, WSILS27.
He hasn't been cleared to land. Told to continue the approach because of my presence on the runway. I can't dot in here now because well, I will, because I've got time. Tower Ranger vacated Golf 1, surface dry.
Ranger 2, copy vacated and dry.
Sometimes you've got to jump in when the opportunity arises between aircraft talking to air traffic.
Jim and his colleagues are constantly on patrol at Bristol Airport. They're responsible for everyone's safety and security, and keeping an eye on the runway is only part of the job. Tonight, Jim will cover several miles checking the airfield perimeter, taxiways, and the main parking area for the arriving and departing aircraft. It's a job Jim's been doing for over 25 years, and it's the abundance of wildlife on the airfield that's always held a particular fascination for him.
If you look ahead in our headlights, you will see a few rabbits, to say the least. Not those there. That's a minor detail. Here we are, straight ahead. Watership down. Apart from the obvious concern about aircraft coming into contact with the rabbits, it has been known on certain airfields where rabbits have actually got inside the cable ducts, chewed through the cable, started electrical fires, electrical failures of systems. Also, they've actually undermined the runway surface where they've been in the grass areas close to the runway edges. They've gone underneath, and all of a sudden you find some cracks appear in the runway. The next thing you know, you've got a pothole there, or even worse.
But it's not just the rabbits that invade the airfield at night. Bristol is home to a colony of hares. In many ways, it's an ideal spot for them, and they can grow to 2 or 3 times the size of an adult rabbit. That could mean a very serious incident if they got near the runway, and a possible collision with an aircraft either taking off or landing.
British 3 take off, but line up runway 27.
That's quite a medium-sized one. There are some very large ones. The size of a whippet, I think. Some of them I've seen. Really large.
3 take off after noise abatement, right turn on track braking, can take off, set between 2806.
But hares and rabbits are not the only problem facing Jim tonight. He spots a vehicle exceeding the 15-mile-an-hour limit.
That's what we do usually, we clock the vehicles. And that is outer stand clear way down there. I'm sure your mic can pick me up or not, but you better not leave it there. Right, have a little word with him. Alright, what's he doing then? Leaving it like that, I want to word with him. Yeah. Well, you're supposed to follow the road system, aren't you? Yeah. Also, don't ever park there again. If I see you park that again, I'll issue a safety incident notification. Basically, you could restrict the fuel tanker from getting out if there's an emergency.
Suitably warned, the driver moves his vehicle to a safer parking spot. In a serious incident, Jim and his colleagues have the power to remove people from the airport altogether.
He was reminded of the rules regarding the road system, and was obliged to follow them. Also spoke to him. I said his speed was over 15 miles per hour at one stage, but it dropped back down. The worst thing he did there was he obstructed the fuel bowser, which is currently refueling the aircraft. If there was an emergency situation, that refueling bowser had to be disconnected and driven away. The exit route would have been impeded. So, definite no-no.
It's a night when no fewer than 4 flights are due into Bristol from Tenerife. Hundreds of passengers have been enjoying the sunshine of the Canary Islands and the opportunity to buy cigarettes at prices way below those of the high street in Britain. What many don't realise is that although Spanish, the islands are not part of the European community. That means the allowance for the number of cigarettes that can be brought back is just 200. It's going to be a fruitful night for customs officers Keith and Gary.
Hello, sir. Is it just the two of you travelling together? Could I just have a word, please? Whereabouts have you come in from?
Tenerife.
Tenerife? How long have you been away for?
Week.
Okay.
So how many loads of the batteries?
As I said, the statutory allowance for coming in from the Canary Islands is either 200 cigarettes or 250 grams of tobacco.
Oh, or?
Yeah,
Not both?
not both, no. Which is half of one of those.
Oh, where do you come from?
From Tenerife.
You just come from Tenerife, yeah.
For some travellers, it will simply be an expensive mistake. Others are hoping they'll get away with it.
Cigarette and tobacco smuggling is still a big problem. We're seizing large quantities of cigarettes and tobacco, not at just the major ports and seaports, but also regional airports like Bristol. Smugglers are looking to use regional airports, thinking that in actual fact they can get past customs. The fact that regional airports may not have a permanent customs presence, but customs are going to be here. They're going to be targeting the high-risk flights like Tenerife, and we can make good seizures like we have here.
Only on your own? Yeah. Not with a group or anybody else like that, just on your own, eh? Just put your bags on there. Right, OK, well, you walk down the green channel, that means you've got nothing in excess of the allowances. Do you know what they are? No. No? Do you have any tobacco, goods, wines and spirits at all?
I got 2 bottles of champagne and some cigarettes.
You've got 200 there, yeah.
Some there.
Do you want them to get damaged?
No.
Who are these for?
Myself.
Heavy smoker, eh?
Tenerife, for example, you can buy 200 cigarettes for £8–9 compared to, say, £45 for 200 over here. So there's a big saving to be had. What some people don't realise or try not to acknowledge is the fact that Tenerife is outside the European Union, which means that you're actually restricted to just your normal duty-free allowances, which would be 200 cigarettes, for example.
So what I tell you is that these goods are seized.
All of them?
All of
Do
them.
I get the 200 or no?
No, you've lost a lot.
Right.
An hour later, and the next Tenerife flight is landing. Hundreds more passengers pack into the baggage reclaim hall, and the expert eyes of Keith and Gary are in action once again. More luggage is going to mean more seizures of cigarettes and tobacco.
What have you got in here? Got what, 200 cigarettes? Yeah. OK. Any tobacco at all?
No.
No, just 200 cigarettes. What sort of cigarettes are they?
Lambert and Bentley's.
Can I have a look at them, please?
Yeah. I'm investing now. I got more than 200 in a minute.
What have you got altogether then?
I got 2,200.
So you knew you'd got any excess?
I took a chance, and if you take it, I thought.
Can you open the case?
Yeah, sure.
He people who are really quite genuinely honest people, but like to push the limits a bit, will really throw their hands up. They may make what we call a creeping declaration. They'll start off and say, well, I've got my allowance, and then you start to look through their suitcase, and then they suddenly say, oh, yes, and I forgot the cigarettes we were bringing in for Auntie Maisie, and I forgot those cigarettes. So your original declaration of 200 may actually shoot up to sort of 2,000 by the end of our search. They tend to be the more docile of passengers, but we can get some really nasty pieces of work in too. The couriers who are employed by the organised criminals to go out and bring in perhaps 2 suitcases of cigarettes from Tenerife. They are the people that actually give us the problems, and they can be quite abusive when they're stopped.
And the night's haul of 50,000 cigarettes won't be wasted. They're mixed with seized alcohol and burnt as fuel at a power station near Swindon. As the night draws on, one of the last scheduled services prepares to leave Bristol International Airport. But there's no let-up for Safety Officer Jim Calloway, who's now well into his 12-hour night shift and checking out a report of an aircraft leaking fuel.
This is a difference that I've got over any other vehicle. I've got free-range policy, and it means that I can enter taxiways and grass areas outside critical areas and runways. So if I need to get to an aircraft or a certain part of the airfield to assess something, I can do it without having to adhere to the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. It's 30 miles per hour normally on a taxiway. If this had been a report of a fuel spillage, fuel absolutely piling out of the aircraft, then I would have had the fire service on their way now to the aircraft, and it would have been classed as an incident. Oh, I know what the problem is here. Well, I've got a good idea anyway. Some of the older aircraft, in fact some modern aircraft, have got a dipstick system for the wing tanks, so it will show the actual aircraft captain or the crew or whatever, the actual readings in the tank. So if there's any discrepancy with the gauges on the flight deck, it's an additional backup. I'm not overly worried about that. You got a small fuel leak from the dipstick on your starboard wing, sir. We're going to have a quick look at it in a minute. Small area there, we're going to just soak it up, get it degreased. It's just dripping from the stick there.
Jim resumes his night's vigil, waiting for one of the last EasyJet flights to land before carrying out another runway inspection.
Terry, you'd like a surface inspection before the Airbus departs?
Runway 27 on report vacating.
There's a guy on the road system, as you can see. He's beckoning the traffic on, which means the aircraft has not commenced its push yet. We'll try and get 2 sweeps of the runway in this time, obviously, because the central line lights are going to be in our eyes. If by some chance I can't complete the inspection in that time, I will hold off until the aircraft's departed. Very often thought, driving along the runway here, they had the incident with the Concorde in France, owing to a piece of metal that was left on the runway. Personally, I feel that Concorde was dealt a very severe blow from the way in which it was handled, because if it wasn't for that piece of metal on the runway and the relevant inspection procedures that just appeared they had in place, because I think it's about 1 inspection had only been done that day at the time, and I feel quite bitter about that. We're a small airport compared to the airport in France, which was concerned, and I feel so bitter of the fact that they couldn't have done more to inspect the runway there. And I think probably if it happened in this country, there would have been a major investigation into the procedures, how often and frequently it's checked. And unfortunately now we're looking at the retirement of a fantastic piece of engineering. There he is. I thought there was a hair there too. Cheeky little sod. I don't think it's moving back away from the runway edge. We're in a process of getting a plan together to have them removed off the airfield. There's 2. Another one there. Hopefully you tag on with that one and disappear off well clear. Just wait for him to give his read back, his air traffic clearance to the tower before I butt in and give them the inspection report.
100 about. Possible 130. Press level change en route, possible 350, and stalking 2241.
Jet 569 Charlie, read back, correct?
Tower, this is ASU vacated at Bravo. The surface is dry and a couple of hairs are moved off well clear of the runway at the western end.
But in an area not far away, things are coming to life. Part of a nightly operation which helps deliver your post every morning.
It is very time critical, should I say. The aircraft are only on the ground for a certain amount of time. This is our first aircraft. It doesn't give us too many problems. The later ones, we have other aircraft feeding into it, and those you may have a period of 15 minutes from an aircraft landing to another one departing, in which time you have to remove mails from one, segregate it out to make sure you're putting the correct mails on the connecting flight and make sure that the weights are all correct as well. So it is very time critical.
Throughout the night, planes land and take off to and from airports across the country, so a single breakdown can cause problems.
We have had a bit of a problem tonight. Our Skynet 20, as we know it, it's an Exeter to Bristol to Belfast flight, suffered a technical problem at Exeter and was unable to fly. Of course, it's very late in the day. By the time we get the mails to Bristol by road, we have to get holds on the connecting flight because it also brings mails for all of the other flights. But we have contingency plans in place and it's all going ahead tonight. We think there may be one more vehicle to come, but by the time we get the planes loaded, that vehicle will be here and we can fill out the full consignment or adjust the waybill accordingly. At the end of the day, we want those letters delivered tomorrow morning in Belfast, so we will pull out all the stops to make sure that that happens. But sometimes, despite best efforts, it is just not possible, especially across the water.
The first departure of the night is ready to leave. It's the first of more than a dozen aircraft movements that must be timed almost to the minute at a depot which handles 1 million pieces of mail each and every night. It's a demanding task, and manager John Torrington is still concerned about the delivery from Exeter and just how many lorries are on their way.
Hello, it's John at Bristol. Can you just confirm to me it's just 2 vehicles that have brought the mails up from Skynet to us? Because we were originally told 3, but I've got 2, and I think that's everything, but I just want confirmation.
The reply doesn't bring good news. There may be a 3rd lorry on its way, but it looks as though it's going to arrive too late to catch a connecting flight, and that would create further problems for John and his colleagues.
Well, by that time, the plane's going to be loaded and gone. Can you find out if all the mail was contained on 2 vehicles? Is there any way you can find out from the airport? Right, I'll give Tony a ring. We'll assume that all the mail is on these 2 vehicles. OK, thanks. It can be a logistical nightmare, especially when you have the weights and volumes to contend with, and you have to make sure that you're giving the captains accurate payload so as they know how to adjust the trim of the aircraft. Very important. So it is a bit of a nightmare when things go wrong.
And the nightly operation at Bristol isn't providing just a local service.
But we don't only serve Bristol here. For instance, we have a vehicle here. This is a Bristol vehicle, Gloucester, Cardiff. We then have Bath, we have Swansea, we have Cardiff, Reading, Oxford. So all the postmen are taking their own barrows of mail. It's all been segregated airside. They then take that away and break it down into separate segregation so that it can be handled through the mail centres and go out in time for delivery in the morning. We've made good headway. We've got the mails up from Exeter. It's all connected into the relevant flights and everything is on its way. Obviously, there's going to be a delay to the flight to Belfast because we have to turn a flight around. But everything will get to its destination and customers' mail will get delivered in the morning, which is a good thing. So we're happy with that. Every night is different. No 2 nights are ever the same, and even if it makes a difference of one aircraft arriving just 5 minutes late, it completely throws out our basic plan, and we have to start rethinking and rearranging vehicles, rearranging the preset arrangements with mail centres, informing them that things are going to be late. So it's a very fast-moving environment.